Hello everyone, this is Shivani Garg, Assistant Professor from Government Engineering College, Bikaner. From today onwards, we'll be studying frequency response analysis in control system. I hope you have already gone through with the previous lectures of block diagram representation, time domain analysis, and stability analysis. If not, please go and see those videos and then come back to this lecture. Otherwise, you may not understand some points. So let's start with today's lecture. In this lecture, I'll be giving you a brief introduction of frequency response. So first, what is frequency response? So consider an LTI system, linear time invariant system. If we are giving a sinusoidal input to it, we will get a sinusoidal response in output, the frequency of which would be same as the applied input. However, the magnitude and phase shift may or may not be different from the input. So for this, let us consider an example, a very simple example of pure resistive circuit. So if we apply a sinusoidal input to it, a resistive circuit, we get some current. Okay, so here we have Vt is equal to Vm sin omega t. Our input is Vm sin omega t. Here our GS system is 1 by R. The transfer function of the system is 1 by R. So we know that IT is equal to Vt upon R or Vm upon R sin omega t. So from this we can see our magnitude is changed from what we have applied. We have applied the voltage of magnitude Vm and we are getting a current of magnitude Vm upon R. However, our phase shift is same as the input signal and frequency is also same as the input signal. So we have applied a sinusoidal voltage, we are getting a sinusoidal current in the response. Let's take another example of pure inductive circuit. So again we have a current IT in response. This is L and this is V of T. So in this example, our GS would be equal to 1 by SL and our Vt is equal to same Vm sin omega t. Okay, and so again, sorry. So we have again same signal. Here we know Vt is equal to L di by dt, and if we consider initial conditions as 0, then we get I of t is equal to Vm upon omega L sin omega t minus pi by 2. So from this we can see our magnitude is Vm upon omega L as compared to our input magnitude, that is Vm, and our phase shift is also minus 90 degrees. Okay, so again we are giving a sinusoidal input, we are getting the sinusoidal output of different magnitude and phase shift. So these are the two very simple examples to understand frequency response. So what is the importance of frequency response? As we know already, we have time domain analysis, we have studied, we can calculate maximum peak overshoot, the peak overshoot time, rise time, steady state error, steady state response. So what is the need of frequency response? So first advantage is that in the frequency response is independent from the amplitude and frequency of input signal. As we have seen in previous slide, the amplitude and phase may be different, may or may not be different from the input signal. However, the frequency is same as the input signal. The next advantage is that it is easy to design and parameter adjustment in frequency response. So when we will be studying the compensators, lateral compensator, lead compensator, you will see we do all those adjustment in frequency response analysis only, as this is easier when we use frequency response as compared to time domain analysis. It also reduces the noise disturbance and parameter variations in frequency response. It is easy to reduce these, as for example, As we know, our power line has the frequency of 50 hertz and our communication lines has the frequency of 1000 hertz, and these two lines are parallel to each other. So these frequency may interfere with each other. So what we do is we use low pass filter to attenuate the high frequency signal in power transmission line, and we use high pass filter to attenuate the low frequency signal in communication line. So this is easier in frequency domain as compared to time domain. And most importantly, the time domain and frequency domain analysis are correlated to each other. So if we know the parameters or specifications in frequency domain, we can easily predict the function in time domain analysis. Okay, so last but not the least, the sinusoidal transfer function can be obtained simply by replacing s with j omega. So if we have a transfer function gs is equal to 1 by st plus 1, then the frequency response of this would be equal to gj omega is equal to 1 by j omega t plus 1. You can simply replace s by j omega and you will get the frequency response. So this is as simple as that. So these are the advantages of frequency response. So let's see how we get the frequency response, how we get the time response from frequency response. Let us consider RT is equal to an input signal. RT is equal to A sin omega t. Then its Laplace transform is equal to A omega upon s square plus omega square. And let us consider a stable LTI system GS. Then its CS upon RS is equal to G of S. Or CS, you can write CS is equal to A omega upon s square plus omega square GS. Okay, so as we have considered, you can write this equation in partial fraction form, that is k1 upon s plus j omega plus k2 upon s minus j omega plus partial fraction of gs. So now these two terms gives the steady state response of the system, and this term will give the transient response of the system. How, as we have considered a stable system. Why we are considering stable system? Because if the system is unstable, then I don't need that system and I don't need to do any further calculations or specification performance calculation for the system, as the system is already unstable. So I am interested in stable system only. So we have considered a stable system. So a stable system has the negative poles in negative half side of the pole zero plot. So when you do the inverse Laplace transform, you will get the terms of somewhat like e to the power minus at. All the terms would be in this form only. So once when you put the t tends to infinity, these all term will get vanished. So this will give the transient response. Only this term will be existing in steady state response. So a steady state response would be equal to k1 upon s plus j omega plus k2 upon s minus j omega. So from this we can also conclude that this system is giving you the transient response and the input is giving you the steady state response. So once we do the partial fraction and calculate this k1 and k2, we get the equation CSS as minus a upon 2j magnitude g minus j omega into e to the power j angle g minus j omega into e to the power minus j omega t plus a upon 2j magnitude g j omega into e to the power j angle g j omega into e to the power j omega t. So we take the common terms out and we get a upon 2j magnitude g j omega into e to the power j omega t plus phi minus e to the power minus j omega t plus phi. Okay, where phi is equal to angle gj omega. Okay, phi is equal to angle gj omega, and we know the magnitude gj omega is equal to magnitude of g minus j omega. So both the magnitudes are same. So when we take the inverse Laplace transform of this equation CSS, so when we take the inverse Laplace of this equation, we get CSS in t time domain is equal to a into magnitude gj omega into sine omega t plus phi. Okay, or you can write it as CST is equal to b sine omega t plus phi. Okay, so if you consider compare this is our input signal and this is our steady state output response. So we are getting b sine omega t plus phi. Okay, so if we go back in this slide and we write this, what we get here is the steady state response is equal to a magnitude gj omega into sine omega t plus phi. Okay, so for first case, for this case we have gj omega is equal to 1 by r, that means phi is equal to 0 and magnitude of g is equal to 1 by r, and magnitude of input is a is here is Vm. So our steady state response for first case would be equal to a is Vm, magnitude of gj omega is 1 by r into sine omega t plus phi is 0. So we are getting the same response that which we are getting here. Okay, similarly let us consider this system. Here we have again gj omega is equal to, we can simply replace the s by j omega, so j omega l. So here phi is equal to minus pi by 2 and magnitude of g is equal to how much? 1 by omega l. So once we put this, so in second case what we get, the steady state response of the current is a, that is Vm, upon into g magnitude of gj omega, that is omega l, into sine omega t plus phi, that is minus pi by 2. So again we are getting the same output response which we were getting with the normal calculations. So for complicated system, in this way we can solve this by using either of the method. Both are this and we can do in 2-3 steps, but for complicated system it becomes easier to calculate the response using this method, using frequency response. Okay, so like in time domain analysis we have some specification is frequency response analysis as well. So one is the resonant peak. This resonant peak m here is the magnitude mj omega, where mj omega is the closed loop transfer function, that is cj omega upon rj omega. Okay, so the maximum value of this magnitude is called the resonant peak, and at which this magnitude is occurring, the frequency at which this magnitude is occurring is called as the resonant frequency omega r. This mr gives the indication of relative stability of the system. Okay, how this will give, we will see in next slides. So, and another term, that is bandwidth. This is the value of frequency at which the magnitude drops to 70.7% of its zero frequency value. This we can see in the graph. This is the graph for mg omega. So this is our zero frequency value, that is 1. It starts increasing from its zero frequency value. It reaches a point, that is its maximum value, called as resonant peak, and the frequency at which it is occurring is called the resonant frequency, that is omega r. Then it starts decreasing, and at one frequency it becomes the value of 70.7% from its 0 frequency value. Here we have 1, so it is the value 0.707. Okay, so this frequency is called as the cutoff frequency, and this is called the bandwidth of the system. And after this cutoff frequency, our system is attenuating so fast, so we are not interested in this part of the response. We are only interested in this part of the response. So at this point, this cutoff frequency, after this cutoff frequency, we are not interested in the system response. So at this point, the rate at which this response is decreasing, attenuating, is called as the cutoff rate. Okay, the slope at the cutoff frequency. Okay, so these are the specifications in frequency response. Let us consider the correlation between the time and frequency response. So let us consider an open loop transfer function. Gs is equal to omega n square upon s square plus 2 zeta omega ns. So our closed loop transfer function Cs upon Rs is equal to Ms, which is equal to omega n square s square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n square. So from this we can simply get the frequency response by replacing s by j omega. So we get mj omega is equal to omega n square j omega whole square, we replace s by j omega plus 2 zeta omega n j omega plus omega n square. Or we can simplify this in the form 1 upon minus omega n omega square upon omega n square plus j 2 zeta omega by omega n plus 1. Here we can write omega by omega n as normalized frequency, although we can solve the equation in this form also, but this will make our calculation easier, so it is advisable to convert this using normalized frequency. But if you wish, you can do in the same form also. So now when we are considering u, normalized frequency, so our mj omega would be equal to 1 by 1 minus u square plus j 2 zeta u. So if we calculate the magnitude and phase angle, our magnitude would be equal to 1 by under root of 1 minus u square whole square plus 2 zeta u whole square, and angle phi would be equal to minus tan inverse 2 zeta u by 1 minus u square. So I hope, I consider you all know how to calculate this from a complex value, how to calculate the magnitude and angle. So once you calculated this, let us see how our magnitude and angle is varying with by varying u. So let us consider a value u. When u is equal to 0, then our m would be equal to 1. So when we put u is equal to 0, so our m would be equal to 1 and our phi would be equal to 0. Okay, so tan inverse 0 is 0. Now let us put the value u is equal to 1, that is omega is equal to omega n. So our m is equal to, when we put u is equal to 1, this becomes 0 and this becomes m is equal to 1 by 2 zeta. Okay, and phi is equal to, what would be phi when you put u is equal to 1? This becomes infinity, so this becomes minus pi by 2. Okay, and next when we put u is equal to infinity, this term m will become 0 and our phi becomes minus pi. So we put infinity, our phi becomes minus pi. So from this we can see our, as we have seen in the previous slide, as our frequency is increasing, our response is increasing like this. So at u is equal to 0, there is 0 frequency, the magnitude is 1, and then it starts increasing, it reaches some point mr, this peak, and then again it starts decreasing to 0. At u is equal to infinity, it becomes 0. So there exists some peak in between this u is equal to 0 to infinity. In between these two frequencies there exists some peak. So to calculate that peak value, what we do, we take the first derivative and keep it to 0 with varying u frequency. While varying u, how our this magnitude is varying. So we keep the first derivative as 0 to calculate the peak value. So we will simply do the differentiation using this equation. We have this equation. We can simply use the derivative rules and do, calculate the first derivative of dm with respect to u, and we put u is equal to ur, where ur is the resonant peak natural frequency. Okay, or ur is equal to omega r by omega n, where omega r is the resonant frequency and ur is the resonant normalized frequency. And at this frequency we will calculate mr, that is resonant peak of the magnitude. So once we simplify this, we get ur as this. So once we simplify, we get ur as is equal to under root 1 minus 2 zeta square, or omega r is equal to omega n under root 1 minus 2 zeta square. Once we put this value in magnitude in equation number this 4, we get mr is equal to 1 by 2 zeta under root 1 minus 2 zeta square, and similarly the angle at this frequency phi r is equal to minus tan inverse under root 1 minus 2 zeta square zeta. So from this we can see our omega r is dependent upon zeta, and if we remember in time domain analysis, our omega d is equal to omega n under root 1 minus zeta square. Okay, and our MP is equal to our MP, the peak overshoot, is equal to e to the power minus pi zeta upon under root 1 minus zeta square. So our MP depends upon zeta. Similarly, our resonant peak is also depending upon zeta only, and our resonant frequency depending upon omega n and zeta. Similarly, our damping frequency depending upon the natural frequency and zeta. So let us consider the value of zeta. Say let's say in one case our zeta is varying from 0 to 1 by root 2, and in another case our zeta is greater than 1 by root 2. So let's consider first this case when our zeta is greater than 1 by 2. So this would become imaginary. So at this, when zeta is greater than 1 by 2, our mr does not exist. And for this value, when zeta is in between 0 to 1 by root 2, so our maximum overshoot we are getting at this value. So this curve is for zeta in between 1 by root 2 and 0. Okay, and for zeta greater than root 2, we get somewhat like this. So this is for zeta greater than 1 by root 2. So for this point there does not occur any resonant peak when zeta is greater than 1 by root 2. Okay, so if we compare these MP and omega d with mr and omega r, we can see that, as we have told you already, this MP is also dependent upon zeta. Similarly, our mr is also depending upon zeta only. So this mr is also depending upon zeta, and our omega r is depending upon omega n and zeta. Similarly, our omega d is also depending upon omega n and zeta. So if we know the value of zeta and omega n, we can easily calculate MP or omega d for time domain analysis, and mr and omega r for frequency response analysis. Okay, so we simply need omega n and zeta. We can easily calculate any of the response from the system. Okay, so similarly we can calculate the bandwidth also. For bandwidth, what we have seen the in this graph, we have seen the for bandwidth this value is around 0.707, that is 1 by root 2. Okay, so we put the magnitude at which this value becomes 1 by root 2. The frequency is called the bandwidth. So once we calculate this, we get this value. Okay, so this is our bandwidth. Omega b is equal to omega n 1 minus 2 zeta square plus 2 under root 2 minus 4 zeta square plus 4 zeta to the power 4 to the power 1 by root 2 1 by 2. So this is our bandwidth. This gives the information of the signal to which value we can use the signal, and after that our system becomes attenuated, so we don't need that signal. So I hope you understand this. So in frequency response we have 5 graphical methods to represent the frequency response of a system. One is the Bode plot, polar plot. The third is Nyquist plot at constant m and constant n circle, and Nicholas chart. So for gate syllabus we have only these 3 systems in the syllabus. So we will be studying these plots in next lectures: Bode plot, polar plot, and Nyquist plot. I hope you understand the basic introduction of frequency response. So that's it for today's lecture. Let's meet in the next lecture tomorrow. Thank you.